Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar live on May 23rd. Today's webinar is Organize Your Businesses with Computer-Based Accounting, presented by Mark Thompson. My name is Alyssa Atkins, and I am the Training and Development Coordinator for the Native Learning Center, and today I will be your webinar facilitator. Just a quick disclaimer, this webinar provides a summary of fundamental concepts, requirements, and/or procedures within the allotted 90 minutes. The material discussed does not illustrate all possible scenarios that could be applicable. Before we get started, I wanted to familiarize you with some of the features available and how the environment works. If you look at the top of your screen, you will see an icon of either a person with their hand raised or just a hand. With that icon, you can either raise hand, agree, disagree, or step away. Now your screen should look similar to the graphic here. To the bottom left, you will see a box that says Files. Here you will find today's presentation. Please feel free to download a copy for yourself. Simply click the item you would like to download, then click the arrow pointing downwards, and you will be prompted to save or print the materials based on your device's permissions. The second box that states Web Links to houses today's survey, as well as any other links that are found throughout the presentation. Lastly, to the right of the screen, we have a chat box available. This is how you will communicate to the instructor and NLC staff. If you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to interact by using the chat box. Simply type your message and hit enter, or click that up arrow icon button to submit. We encourage class participation, so please feel free to write in those questions or comments. Tech support issues should also be submitted here. It is with a great pleasure that I now introduce Mark Thompson.
All right. Thank you very much, Awista. Hello, everybody. Alito, welcome. Hope everybody is doing well. A good morning to folks here in California and to my west and up the coast, and everybody to my east. Good afternoon. I'm going to get on here and now share my screen so I can have the presentation. We're going to not only just go and show you a presentation today, but we're also going to go into some different software as well for you guys to check out. So as this is coming up, and hopefully it is, hopefully I've set it up correctly. Oh, you know what? I didn't hit share. There, and then let me go back over here to this one. Okay, now we're in the right location. I'll hide that little box. Okay, so I hope everybody is in the right location. We are going to be talking about computer-based accounting and managing your business with different software programs. We're going to be focusing specifically on one Wave apps, and we'll talk more about that as we get into the presentation. So just a little bit, if you guys may have been taking some of the recent Native Learning Center classes, IDRS has been presenting several of the more recent ones. So our organization is the Indian Dispute Resolution Services. We have two sides of our organization. One side, we work with tribes doing dispute resolution work. And that dispute resolution work can be training, like in mediation or negotiation. It could be doing tribal council elections. It could be doing direct services like facilitating. That part of our organization can be found. More information can be found at idrsinc.org. But we also have a small business development side. And we started this about 10 years ago, and we do training like we're doing today in partnership with the Native Learning Center. But we do webinars all the time, and we're also doing things, doing in-person training, youth training. It runs the gamut, all the different stuff we do. We also do free technical assistance, and all technical assistance is small business counseling. But all that information, upcoming trainings, and all that good stuff can be found at our website, nativebiz.org. That is our forward-facing website for Native entrepreneurs and Native artists, all about the Acorn Project. I am Mark Thompson. I'm the Executive Director here at IDRS. We're located in Plymouth, California, which is just outside of Sacramento. That's our telephone number, 916-482-5800, and that is my email, mark@idrsinc.org. We've had folks in the past contact us, ask us questions, and when somebody one time wrote, I hope it's not an issue. Please, it is not an issue. Feel free, write down the email, copy it, paste it, put it in your email address or your email or your Gmail or whatever you got. And feel free to contact us at any time. That's what we're here for. We're more than happy to help out. We get inquiries from different entrepreneurs all over the country all day long, and so we're more than happy to work with you guys. So please feel free to contact us. But with that, let's get into the presentation. So what we're going to be doing in this webinar, we're going to be talking about why we're even talking about computer-based accounting, some of the important concepts, and we're going to do a little bit about kind of a refresher. We just did a workshop, a webinar with Native Learning Center on Thursday, all about record keeping. So some of those slides, if you attended both classes, are going to look familiar. We're just going to do a little bit of a recap on how that works and how record keeping influences your computer-based accounting system. And what we want to get out of as we're developing our computer-based accounting system. There's going to, we'll talk more about why we're talking about QuickBooks and Wave, but we're going to talk a lot about those two programs. We're going to learn what Wave accounting is, how to sign up, and then we're going to see Wave in action. And so that's kind of what we're hoping that we can get out of this hour and a half. Okay, so time for a poll. So for the folks here, what I'd like to find out from you guys is who is currently using an accounting software, and if you are, what software are you using? So just type it down there in the chat box. If you're not using it, you don't if you're not using computer-based accounting software, you don't have to respond. But if you are using it, please let us know. And so if you guys don't know what a computer-based accounting software like one would be, like QuickBooks. So if you guys are using it, please let us know. All right, I see we got Excel. Okay, that was great because the other day we talked about how we could be using spreadsheets to do some of the accounting. So that's awesome. Okay, we see QuickBooks, QuickBooks for nonprofits, QuickBooks Desktop. That is great because we're going to be talking a lot about those, and we're going to be going into, and so some of you guys are, seems like you guys are really experienced if you guys are using QuickBooks. So I hope this is not too basic for you. Because this is really talking about getting folks in to computer-based accounting. But I think it will be instrumental, and you guys can also help me out. We always say, we always say when we're doing training that I'm not the expert, even though I'm standing up in front of the classroom, and I'm virtually standing up in front of you guys today. But I'm like a facilitator, just like our dispute resolution side, right? I'm just facilitating the conversation, and you guys also bring a lot of experience, a lot of expertise, and so we want you guys to participate as well. So if there's stuff that you see that I'm saying that's wrong, or you have, if you have a better answer than I do to a question, please, throw it in the chat box, because we want to learn from everybody. Because when we're learning from everybody, we're learning a lot more than that I can bring. So I even see Paul's got QuickBooks Online there. So that's going to be great, because we're going to be talking a lot about all those and why things, why we choose one versus the other. Okay. So let's so the other day, like I mentioned, just a quick recap. So when we're looking at record keeping, what is it and why do we do it? So we keep records because we want to report to governmental bodies. Okay, so that's going to be taxes. We talked about the other day that could be for permitting, right? There may be certain licenses that you have to have. You have to be keeping good records. Okay. It could be if you're, reporting to lenders or funders. If, I see somebody was doing QuickBooks for nonprofits, right? We're a nonprofit. here at IDRS, and we always have to be making QuickBook reports. I saw QuickBooks just pop up. We have to be making grant reports, right? And all of our financial data is kept in QuickBooks, and so that's what we're using to provide that information to those funders, right? But we're also using this information to find out about how effective our business is, right? How many people that we're serving versus how much money we're spending. There's lots of different reasons why we're keeping these records. And one of the main things that we want to have happen is we want these records to be accurate, right? And so when we're looking at actually running our business, we're keeping track of customers, right? And for us, our customers oftentimes are different tribes or native organizations. We have a lot of vendors that we have. Obviously, just the usual vendors that you would think of, but like utilities and things like that. But we have a lot of contractors that work for us and provide training, provide services on reservation. We have to track, if we're tracking all that, we do use spreadsheets for some of those things, but a computer-based accounting system makes a lot of that easier. Obviously, doing payroll, doing financial transactions, as you'll see, once you start getting into, a couple dozen financial transactions in a month, having a paper-based system starts to get a little unwieldy. You start getting into hundreds of transactions, maybe that spreadsheet system becomes a little unwieldy. And not only that, it's fine for a month or two, or if you don't have a lot of requirements, like you're just going to add things up at the end of the month, end of the year. But if you want to go find historical data, the nice thing about these computer-based accounting system is they're linked, right? And so at least in QuickBooks, I can run a report for a customer and I can see what I've done for this year. I can see what I've done for last year. I can go back for a long time because all that data is stored there in my company file. This is also kind of a recap, why we go and choose accounting software. Because it's powerful, it's flexible. It can do a lot of what we're looking for with financial management, right? It's going to be doing all of the addition, subtraction, all of those calculations for us. Plus, when we're trying to run a report, right, that's one of the key things. If we get good data into our computer-based accounting system, when we try to go and get the information out and we run a report, normally if we were doing that on paper, we got to get out the adding machine and we're adding all those numbers up. If we're doing spreadsheets, we can use some formulas that will add up the columns that we have here. But what if we have financial information that we need and it's on multiple sheets, right? Now we have to start getting a little bit more complicated, or in different workbooks. There are ways to link all that kind of stuff, but it is a lot more challenging. And the more you do that, the more cumbersome it gets. You move a spreadsheet and you have a link in there that could break all kinds of formulas in your spreadsheet. So that's the nice thing about the computer-based accounting. It's generally going to be in one company file. All that information is going to be there, right? But what happens a lot of times with computer-based accounting, it can be expensive. That's why we're going to talk about Wave, because we work with a lot of native artists, very small micro businesses. They don't have the funds to spend on an accounting system. And even if they did, they probably don't want to, right? They may not be doing that many transactions. But they're really looking for something that, or they may not even be considering accounting. But what we're trying to propose to them is, hey, this is how you formalize your business more. A computer-based accounting system is going to help you get a little bit more, I want to say formalize it. That's not the right word. You're going to be able to run your business in a better way, right? By having all those transactions, you're going to be seeing how much money that you're making, how much revenue I have, how much expenses, what's my profit. When you go for preparing your taxes at the end of the year. If you've been keeping up your books, now being able to run those reports and prepare those taxes can be something that may be able to be done in minutes or an hour or two versus days having to add up all these things, right? Some other cons though, right? Even though a lot of some of these systems can be used on a phone, it does make it a lot easier using it on a computer, and there is a learning curve. And uh, now Josh has mentioned he's talking NFL, and that's totally fine if we want to talk NFL, because I am a big Oklahoma Sooners fan, and so Jalen Hurts, I'm going to claim Jalen Hurts, even though 3 years at Alabama, but but I might disagree with him as currently the reigning reigning best quarterback in the NFL. That's a little aside there because I saw that comment. Um, uh, uh, so I don't even, and I don't even know if that was intended to me for me. He may be texting somebody else. Holly mentioned she wanted to graduate from Excel. And Josh did mention this accounting software can be manipulated to be erased if somebody wanted to hide something. Yes, and actually, it all depends on what you're using. Um, the There are software packages, especially for enterprise type businesses. Like I haven't used them in quite some time. I haven't been in that kind of environment, but like Sage, and Sage has a whole bunch of different software packages depending on the size of your business. And for those, you could never delete an entry, right? So if you had to correct an entry, you wouldn't just delete it. What you would do is make a correcting journal entry, and then you would then go in and you basically, with that correcting journal entry, you've taken it out, but those two entries are still there, and then you could go in and enter the entry the way it's supposed to be made. That was how, and then if you ever run an audit log of all your different transactions, all those different transactions are there. One of the things with a lot of these systems is they're not built for those professional systems. So, like in QuickBooks, one of the nice things for somebody that knows what they're doing, right? Okay, I mess up on a transaction, I can just delete it, right? I don't have to reverse things out of there. But if you have other people that are working in your system, that can be, that can be an issue. There are ways that you can actually set things up. There are things like creating a master account in QuickBooks, and then you have other people that may be utilizing the master account that are using kind of a junior account or a secondary account, and you can give limited rights on there. And so, preventing them from, deleting transactions in maybe one. So like when we're using a QuickBooks in a multi-user session, there's a lot of things that I can't even do, and multi-user really isn't even locked down, but I can't even combine accounts and things like that. So there are ways to lock those out, lock things down a little bit more advanced for a class like this, because as you'll see, that's a very costly scenario to be able to do that. You need to have a lot of accounting knowledge, and it may not even be the business owner that's doing that. It may be more of a financial person. So, but good question, because those are important things, right? Because if you have somebody that is going to be using the computer-based accounting system besides you as the owner, you have concerns, right? You want to watch your money, and and the worst situation, right? You have all this data in there that you've been building up for years, and then somebody goes and deletes it. Fortunately, in situations like that, there should be ways to get things back. I've never even considered that, like with Wave, but a lot of times there are backup procedures. But I guess in the worst case scenario, somebody that really had ill effect could find ways to delete it. But there are always procedures that you can do to mitigate those circumstances. And then Josh, you also asked about an audit. An audit is, all audits are different. We have to be careful here because there's audits that may be conducted by the IRS. They're like with a nonprofit. There are audits like an audit with the nonprofit. They only look at the last year because they're really auditing a year at a time. So it all depends on what type of audit. And most people, most regular businesses, they're not being audited on a regular basis because that's not a necessary thing. With the IRS, I believe the IRS. You'll have to quote me. I'm sorry. I like to answer these questions. I don't want to leave anybody in the lurch. But I believe an IRS audit typically, if they're coming out. They look back for 3 years unless they or seven. It could be 7 years, unless they find something, and then they can go back a lot further. They can go back indefinitely if they find something that's fraudulent. I think it's 3 years, and there's something. If there's errors, they can go back 7 years, and if it's fraudulent, they can go back indefinitely. So, but don't quote me on that. But that's typically how an IRS audit works. From QuickBooks and the accounting software, yes, Josh, what I was talking about earlier is from the if you were using QuickBooks, deleting transactions. So let's get into it now, and now let's actually talk about what do we want to get out of this software. So I've convinced you to move in to computer-based accounting. So now what do we want to do with it? Right. So first, what we need to do is we need to ask ourselves some questions. Okay. So what size, or what type of business do I have? What are the products that I'm selling? So one of the things I mentioned on the other class, we talked about one of my asides answering comments was about maintaining an inventory. Right. And so maintaining an inventory, when we're talking about Wave, there is ways to look at having a little bit of an inventory in Wave. But I will tell you, if you're running a convenience store or you're running something where you have to track a lot of inventory, because a convenience store is a bad example because you might not track inventory in a convenience store. But if you have a business, a retail business where you're tracking inventory, Wave is probably not the best situation for you, right? It works a lot better for service-based businesses or if you're doing very simple retail businesses. So that's the first thing, right? What type of business do I have? What am I selling? What size is my business? That's going to determine what type of accounting system that we're working on. But probably if you're already in business and you're a retail business and you're going strong, you probably already have an accounting system, right? These are for folks that haven't started yet, or they have a very small business and they're thinking about, how am I going to get in to start doing computer-based accounting? Who are our customers? One of the things about that is really about how we're going to track sales and revenue. Are we going to send invoices and things like that? Although most systems allow you to send invoices, it's just if you don't invoice your clients, how do you get sales in there? And we'll look at some workarounds that I have in Wave because it's to me it hasn't been as user friendly as it is in QuickBooks. How much am I willing to spend, right? We'll see in a moment that QuickBooks has gotten very expensive. And do I have experience with a software package already, right? Like we mentioned on the last slide, there is a learning curve in this. So if you are really experienced in QuickBooks, it might be very hard to move to Wave. Not hard in the necessarily like you won't be able to understand what's going on in Wave. I think what you're going to find is everything's moved around, so that there's that learning curve. You're also going to find a lot of the things that are in QuickBooks aren't going to be in Wave, right? And so you're going to find that, oh man, I really liked that feature. So but we'll talk a little bit about that. But that is definitely something to be thinking about. That it's nice that Wave is free, but that that being free comes with a cost. So when we start choosing, like let's say we're starting from the ground floor and we want to choose a computer-based accounting software package, right? So what are some of the features that you need? Almost all businesses are going to need, I put invoicing there, but that could be something as simple as, how do I get revenue in? How do I get sales into my system, right? Every business is going to have sales, right? If you don't have sales, you're going to go out of business. So you have some way that money is coming into your business. Bills is basically money going out of your business. Every business has expenses, right? Every business has revenue, funds coming in. Every business has money going out, expenses. Every business is going to have some sort of banking relationship, right? And you're probably with that going to have a credit card. So being able to track those. And then, like we mentioned, one of the benefits of using computer-based accounting is reporting. So if you don't have any reporting functions, right, then or you don't have a need for reporting, may not really need to go to computer-based accounting. But I think almost all businesses, they're going to need some form of reporting so that they can run their business better. Plus, right, that preparing taxes and things like that at the end of the year. Other things that may be not required for every business, um, or maybe a nice to have. Either the business doesn't need it because it's not applicable to the business, or it's not really needed in the business. Maybe you have another software package. You're not really doing that. You're not, or it's not that important. You'll see that as we talk about some of these things, right? Obviously, if you don't have employees, you don't need payroll. All right. You may be collecting credit cards, or you may not be. So for IDRS, we don't, it's not that we don't accept credit cards. Nobody ever pays us in credit cards, right? Anytime somebody is paying us, it's usually a tribe and they're going to pay us with a check. So if I needed to accept a credit card, I could set something up fairly quickly, but we don't have anything set up because we don't need that. So that may be your business as well, right? Like we've mentioned before with inventory. When I say connect bank accounts, I mean, do you want to be able to download information directly into your system, to your software package? It makes it a lot faster, especially the more transactions that you have. I will say that I run QuickBooks Desktop. If you came to that webinar on Thursday, you saw a little bit of my system with my receipts. And for each of those, like when I'm entering data into my software package, and I use QuickBooks, I use the desktop version, I'm doing everything manually. So I not only run the businesses into QuickBooks, but I even run my personal accounting in QuickBooks as well. And so when I'm using my credit card and I'm going to reconcile my credit card to the end of the month, I go online, download the statement, and I will literally type in every single one of those entries. It doesn't take me that long. Obviously, I do it for a living. So, it's very easy to do it. You'll see that you have to code those things in any event. So for me, I don't think it's that much extra time. But one of the things is, for people that don't do it on a regular basis, it might be a real pain. So be thinking about that, right? If that's a feature that you really want, does your software package offer that? And then here, things like time tracking. If you don't have employees or you're not running certain jobs, that's probably not going to be such an issue. A mileage tracking CRM, that's a customer relationship manager. You may not really, need that. You maybe have other software. You may have just people on your phone you're calling. So, because a lot of times these software packages, they have them integrated. Like with QuickBooks, QuickBooks has a lot of information that you can put in there about your customers. But I will tell you at IDRS, I don't put a lot of that information in because I don't go to QuickBooks to go find that information. If I want to go find information, I have that information in spreadsheets and other places, depending on what the client is, right? Because I may need to contact a tribal client, but that tribal client doesn't ever pay me. Well, I don't want to keep some data about tribal clients in my QuickBooks and some data, you can see. So it really all depends on the way you run your business. I mean, if everybody that you have is a customer that's in there, and they're all paying you and you have very few, like I would think that you would not want hundreds of customers in there. That would be a little bit more cumbersome, because one of the things you might have is you might have people that are potential customers but have never bought anything for you. Are you going to enter those people in there? You might, but you may have a lot of people in there then that never purchased from you. So I'm getting a little more, a little too technical for what it is, but those are the kind of thought processes that you need to be making as you're choosing. Multiple users is that would be multiple people using your software package, and that's mainly at the same time. Remote users, right? That may lend itself to doing something online as opposed to a desktop. Printing checks, 1099 contractors, all that kind of stuff. There's a ton of things that you need to think about, and is your business doing it? And I would say that it's okay to start and then move to a different system, if your business really has the need to move up to something bigger. So not that it's not a pain, but I will say that it is probably a lot easier going from Wave, a free version where you can export stuff, and then go into QuickBooks. One of the things that I wanted to do, and there are ways to do this to get data out of there. There's third-party programs you have to buy, but I was like, man, I'd really like to get some sample data in my WAV file, and it was just a real pain getting it out of QuickBooks, right? So I think it's okay to go from Wave to QuickBooks, but not the other way around. But we'll talk about all those systems. You can see I can get off and talk about this stuff. So let's talk about different providers that are out there. QuickBooks, FreshBooks, Xero, Zoho Books, Wave. I mean, it just keeps going on. Kashu, GoDaddy, Bookkeeping, Sage. I think there's something called Sunrise. There's lots and lots of different software packages out there. The largest, or I'd say the most adopted software package by far is QuickBooks. And really what QuickBooks is now moving people on, they have a desktop version and they have an online version. They're really pushing people to go to the online version. So they're very big. But I know a lot of accountants that use Xero. They really like that. Zoho Books is really robust, and it's an online a software package. But why we talk about Wave in this class specifically is because Wave is free, and you'll see that Wave is not as robust as QuickBooks is, but you can't expect it to be because it is free. So anyway, so let's get in. And first, I want to, and I also want to talk a little bit about why I'm mentioning Wave is what's happened to the cost of QuickBooks. So I've been teaching QuickBooks a long time here at IDRS. Obviously, I use QuickBooks basically every single day, in my in the managerial function here at IDRS, right? And so when we first started doing our small business development program, I would go out, even built a little computer lab that we would go out and train QuickBooks. And doing this online class, when we first started, and here in the pandemic, we started looking at, okay, what's the cost of QuickBooks? And so QuickBooks Desktop used to generally have two versions, the Pro and Premier. And Premier just had a lot of extra reports, things like that. It may have had payroll as well. I can't remember, because for a while they had everything built in. And Premier was just a lot more reporting functions, job costing, little extra features. But then they started removing those big functions like payroll out of the lower end version and going in and then putting some things in Premier or taking them out altogether. So in Desktop Pro, which was their lower end, was $174.99. The next year in 2021, it went to $399, right? We're just buying this off of Amazon. And then they also introduced something where you could get a subscription. So this Desktop Pro Plus would last for 1 year. It would stop working after 1 year, but you could see somebody that didn't want to step up to something at $400 that was $175 the year before, they could still go to and get their subscription. Well, here's what's happened since then, right? That was 2 years ago. Now they don't even really have a desktop version that you can buy and own forever, right? So really, you can get the QuickBooks Desktop Premier Plus. It's $799 a year, right? And they have the Premier Plus, and if you look at that, you can go down, and I know it's very small, so you guys probably can't see that on your screen, but that does not even include payroll for that. So if you're having to run payroll through your system, you're even having to pay more. And then you can step up to the Desktop Enterprise, and I want to say that that's probably equivalent to what the Premier version, and the Premier version used to always be like $350, and now that's $1269, and that's a year. And what they're doing is they're trying to get you. You can see what's recommended there is their QuickBooks Online. All right. So they really want to even get you off of the desktop version, and they want to move you on to the online version. But look at the cost of the online version. It's $42 a month for their plus version, and they have some different different versions. But it's $42 a month, but that's only for 3 months. They have that's a 50% coupon for 3 months. So that's $85 a month after 3 months. And you can see that is cost prohibitive. $1,000 for your accounting software when maybe you're used to spending nothing. You're using spreadsheets, maybe you're using Google Sheets, which is a free software. It has really gotten crazy when it used to be very affordable to use the software. So that's why we don't even really teach QuickBooks any longer, because for a lot of our clients, they're not going to be willing to pay this. And I will say there are ways to keep the price down. Like I've heard that you can call QuickBooks and like say, hey, I'll only stay if you give me that 50% coupon, for the entire year, right? And then you have to end up calling them back every year. But that's still, you're still over $500 for that. And one of the things that you're going to find out over time is once you get all of your financial data in QuickBooks and you've been going, like right now we have financial data for IDRS in our QuickBooks file that is almost 20 years old, right? So do we really want to switch at this point? I assume that if we had to, right, QuickBooks, went away. Okay, we'd probably just have to have that old QuickBooks data and then, maybe even start fresh with something else. But it's going to be a very painful process, and we'd still have to have QuickBooks so we could look back at old data. And I'll say what IDRS has is I actually run a QuickBooks desktop that's 2019. I just refuse to upgrade because with 2019, you used to buy it and you could have it forever. And so that's what I'm going to do. As long as the software will work, I can keep it going. That's what we're doing, because these prices are absolutely crazy. And I would have advised everybody to buy software back in 2019 if I would have known that this is how it was going to go with QuickBooks. So what do we propose instead of QuickBooks? We talk about Wave. And Wave or Wave Apps is an accounting software. It's really good for solopreneurs, solo entrepreneurs, small business, really small business, because if I'm having to be honest with you, the feature set is nowhere near what QuickBooks can do. I do accounting not only for IDRS. Like I said, I do it for my personal, do it for my wife's business. I do it for another client that runs a small business where he has an inventory. I'm doing all that off of QuickBooks, right? It's fully flexible. I'm sure there's some large companies where QuickBooks would be, it would be break. And one of the things that QuickBooks used to have is it had limits on things like items. Items is your inventory item. And so I believe that they used to have an inventory item limit of 10,000. Then they upped that to 15,000. These are on the desktop versions. If you have more items than that, it was not going to be worthwhile for you, right? You had to move up to a bigger software package, and then they had an enterprise that was very pricey as well. But for the most part, it's good enough for most small businesses and can run, and can do almost everything that I think the folks on this call would need to do. Wave is not like that. Wave has some, really good aspects. It's really good for a service business, but obviously, if you're getting up to a certain size, you're probably going to go outgrow Wave, and that's totally fine, right? If you're up a certain size, you're making good money. Maybe you've hired a bookkeeper at least part time. QuickBooks is just going to be a cost of doing business. So think about it that way, right? Let's get you started if you don't have anything on Wave, and then as you grow, maybe you're going to graduate to something that's going to be greater. But you're making so much money, it's not even going to be. You're not even going to miss it. Okay, so like I mentioned, you don't plan to scale for a while. So if you're going to get big next year, hey, maybe you start with QuickBooks, right? Because you don't want to spend all this time learning Wave and then move over. But it's a super simple program, and so it's definitely something that you can do yourself. And there's ways that when we get into the software, you'll see that they have ways that they can help you. Wave, like I mentioned, not great for running inventory. But if you have simple accounting needs, Wave's going to be great for you. So just a real quick comparison with QuickBooks. So this was taken. I got this from an article, and this is comparing Wave to what QuickBooks Online would be, right? Because Wave is an online software package. It's not run on your desktop. You're running it on like a web browser, but it's not installed into your computer. So you can see with features, 3.5 stars compared to 5 for QuickBooks, because QuickBooks can essentially do everything, right? Ease of use, they say that QuickBooks is a little bit easier to use, but Wave is still gets good ratings. And you'll see that it's some of these things where Wave really struggles is things like integrations with other software package, being able to scale, right? Great for a small business, but if you need to grow, you need to all of a sudden have 25 users. Okay, Wave can't grow like that. There is nothing for Wave to grow into, right? It basically is only its size, where QuickBooks Online has a lot of different features. It has different plans that you can go into. Being able to share with other people. And I would also say something here is having people that support Wave versus QuickBooks, because QuickBooks is so useful, or it's so used, in the community. You're always going to find bookkeepers, accountants, CPAs, like if you need somebody to do taxes, things like that, that know how to utilize QuickBooks. You're not going to be able to find that as much in Wave. Doesn't mean they're not out there. There's just going to be a lot fewer of them, right? Because QuickBooks is the dominant software. And I mentioned integrations, right? And integrations is with other software packages. QuickBooks, because it's so big, everybody's building stuff to work with QuickBooks. Where Wave, it's still up and coming. It's not there yet. Now, I will say that Wave has been purchased by H&R Block, right? And H&R Block is one of the largest one of the largest tax preparation companies. And actually, probably is the largest tax preparation company out there. They probably bought it as a way because QuickBooks is owned by a company called Intuit, and Intuit also owns TurboTax, which is the largest tax preparation software. So H&R Block probably bought this as a way to kind of build kind of a fortress of their financial services. And so hopefully with that, Wave will always continue to grow, continue to get more features, because they're going to want to really build this out. Because obviously H&R Block is not going anywhere, but hopefully over time, if you start with Wave, it will continue to get better. And then customer support. One of the issues is with Wave, because it's free. If you're not paying for one of their services, and we'll talk a little bit about their services in just a second, you're not going to really. You're going to have to get free support, right? You're gonna have to read the things on their website. There's some forums. We can talk about that. If you do pay for a service, they will provide some support. Whereas if you're paying for QuickBooks and you need help, they have folks that are there to help out, right? So you can see, if you're paying and you need help, sometimes it's worth paying, because you're definitely paying for something, right? It's not like you're getting one for free and one you're paying for, and they're the exact same thing, right? You're getting a lot more with the QuickBooks package, but for most businesses, it's so costly, they'd rather go without doing any accounting, or doing accounting on paper, than have to pay that, right? So that's what we're trying to help out with today, finding a way to at least get you started in computer-based accounting. Cost, obviously, Wave is going to get 5 stars because it's free, and then obviously advanced features. So anyway, so I'm actually going to now drop out of this. I'm going to go over here and get into taking a look at Wave. So this is the website. So when you go and look at Wave, this is what you'll see. And the website is waveapps.com. I'm just going to go and copy this. Let me actually copy it from over here just so you guys have it. Waveapps.com. If anybody wants to go, if you got 2 monitors, you guys too can go and plug this in. Alrighty, and here it goes. Let's talk a little bit about what are some of the features that Wave has. So you can see they have invoicing, right? They have payments. So how does Wave make money? Wave makes money by charging you for a couple services that are either they have a fee, like collecting with credit cards, or they charge you a monthly fee, like doing payroll for you. That's generally how the company makes money. And then they provide their invoicing and their accounting features free of charge, right? So payments are basically collecting credit cards. Accounting, that's the software packages we're going to be talking about today. They have a payroll function, and then they have another paid service, and that's advisors. And they have 2 different types of advisors. They have advisors where you can get somebody that will actually do bookkeeping for you, and that's a monthly cost for your business, and they'll obviously do your bookkeeping there in Wave. Or you can, they have accounting advisors that will help you out and provide some advice just for, like a one-off thing, a one-off issue, right? They'll tell you, okay, we'll help you set up your chart of accounts, or it will answer these few questions that you have about accounting, and then you just pay for that. So what are pricing for these different things? And let me go in here and look at Holly's question. I'm looking back to track various grant funds used to operate the department, as well as providing services to clients, renters, or home repairs to owners, or down payment. Oh, okay, she's just let me know. Well, we'll go through this, and that might be something I'll have to think about. But we'll see if you think that Wave would be too simple, or it can get done what you think it can get done for you. So so this is the pricing on Wave. Okay, so for invoicing, 100% free. Accounting, 100% free, right? So we've talked about that. So for payments, for regular credit cards, it's going to be 2.9% plus a 60 cents per transaction fee. So if you're running credit cards. You may be running credit cards now. You may be using something like Square. If you're using Square, that's going to be, I think the percentage is going to be very comparable, but the per transaction, I think, is less, right? So you're probably paying a little bit of premium per transaction. So that's something to be thinking about, right? If you're running thousands of transactions, well, Wave could be costing you money, right? Every time you're doing that. But like we mentioned previously, you're probably not, if you're running thousands of transactions every month, probably it would make sense to move up to a more robust, and you probably have the money to do that because you are running that many transactions. But I will say that per transaction, it is a little bit more expensive than what like running it through Square would be. For Amex, American Express, a little bit higher fee, and that's really because American Express charges that. One of the things that they also have is that you can accept bank payments, basically an ACH, automated clearinghouse is what that stands for. But folks, if they want to pay you and they don't want to use a credit card, um, they can actually enter their banking details. It doesn't get transferred to you, so it's very secure. It's only on, it's only read by the software package and not transmitted. So it's even safer than sending a check to somebody. And they can actually, you can get those payments directly from somebody's bank account. And for those, they charge 1%, right? And that is more than what somebody would, like if you were getting a check from somebody, right? You don't have that 1% fee. So it is something to think about because, well, hey, you're guaranteed that the money is there. The chance that it bounces, right, is basically is zero, right? Because the money has been transferred. If they don't have the money in the account, it wouldn't transfer, it would just deny. So there's a little bit of safety that gets, that you get by paying that 1%. Okay. And also the fact that you don't have to worry about getting a check. You don't have to worry about, driving to the bank, depositing, all that kind of stuff. For payroll, they charge $40 a month. And then it's plus $6 per active employee, plus $6 per independent contractor, right? So if you want to run, independent contractors through here as well, right? They wouldn't be taking out taxes, things like that, but they'll issue a 1099. There's that option as well. And what it is the difference between a tax service state and a self-service state is if they're filing the tax documents for you, right? They charge a little bit more in those states versus where if you have to go and file the documents yourself. And then, of course, we mentioned the other thing that they charge for is advisors, right? Bookkeeping support, it starts at $149, and then accounting and payroll coaching, it's a one-time fee, right? But they're not providing ongoing support. They're helping you with a specific issue, and then if later on you have another issue, maybe several months later, then you would go and get that accounting and payroll coaching again. Okay, so that's the cost of Wave. And what I'd like to do now is I'd actually like to go in and show you guys the software in the time we have left. We got about 30 minutes. And what I'm also going to do is because one of the things I think is with any of this software is going and actually seeing transactions entered. I'm going to give a little bit of an overview of the software, but then I'm going to try to go in and enter transactions for you. It's not the most fun thing to watch, but I think you'll get the gist a lot better than just seeing, okay, well, this is where you can enter an invoice, right? Because you want to see exactly how that invoice is entered. I'm also going to talk about how I might think that you might enter things like sales, especially when you don't have information for every customer, right? There's a number of different ways that you can do that. So Virginia asked, will there be a way to rewatch this? I cannot get the sound to work. So Virginia, there is a way to do that. All of these Native Learning Center webinars are recorded, and I believe they're going to be up even within 24 hours. So, Let's see. So let's go in to Wave. First, I'm going to open up let me see here. I'm going to open up a incognito window here for you, just so if I go in here to Wave apps, and just so you could see kind of what the sign up process is like. Okay, and it's very simple. You just put in, you could hit sign up for free. It's going to give you something very similar to what you have there. You put in your email, you put in your password, sends you sends you a link to verify this information, and then it opens up and you get something that kind of looks like this is the back end, but like creating a new business. Doesn't look exactly like this, but it's going to ask you things like your company name, what's the type of business, and you can see there this is very limited and the type of business, right? It's not tons and tons of options there. And I think there's a reason for that, right? Because it is free, so it's going to be a little bit more simple. But there is a thing here, general, I make or sell a product or I provide a service. And that's kind of the catch-all for all of the different businesses, where you're located, what's your currency, and the type of organization, right? Are you a sole proprietor, a partnership, or a corporation, right? Those almost all businesses are going to fall into one of those. Because even if you're a nonprofit organization and you wanted to use Wave to do your nonprofit accounting, like we're a corporation, right? Even though we're a nonprofit corporation. So clicking that is fine. The only thing that you might have to work if it suggests certain tax documents, right? Because obviously the tax documents for a for-profit corporation are going to be different than a nonprofit corporation, but that would be it. Then after you go and you fill in all that information, you kind of get here launched on, it may come up here in your launch pad, or it may just come here on the dashboard. So first we'll go in and we'll look at Launchpad. Talks about what do you want to do today, right? Very simple. I never go to Launchpad, right? I always start here with a dashboard, and you're going to get these pop-ups because I don't have a payment um, set up to where we collect payments yet, but because they want to make money, you're going to be getting these pop-ups. So just that's one of the things that you have to suffer through with this software. Um, I don't have a lot of transactions in here, especially for this previous year, but I do have some old transactions in there. But what I want to do is I want to give you kind of a quick overview of where things are here. And then we can talk about like putting transactions in. And then you'll actually see, once we get these transactions in, the way the reports the way the reports you'll be able to run those, and you'll see these different things on the reports. So like I said, that Wave has a lot of the same features that would be in QuickBooks, but they're a lot more simple, right? They're the basic things that almost every business would need with their accounting software. So you have sales, right? So those are going to be things that are coming into the business. And then one of the things that goes with sales is, right, you go and do work. You go and either send an invoice or you expect to get paid immediately. You want to report those payments as well, right? So both the work and then also getting paid for the work. So you have here where you have estimates, and I'll just click on some of these and just go through them quickly, not really explaining them, just so you'll be able to see. But you have estimates. Estimates is if you're going to be doing work for somebody and they want to estimate what it costs, right? Obviously, we go for a car repair, we get an estimate before we go and do the work, right? And so a lot of contractors do that. So it may not, for a lot of businesses, they don't use these features, right? But if you do, there's the option to do an estimate. Here's invoices, right? Invoices is generally you create an invoice for somebody for work that you've done or something that you sold, and then you're expecting to get paid at a later time, right? You send this to somebody and then they pay you, they could pay you right then, right? But generally that's what invoices are for, right? And you'll see, like on invoices, you'll see something that is called net 30, right? Net 30 means this is due within 30 days. A lot of the folks, though, are are not going to be sending invoices to people, right? If you are going and you're a vendor at a let's say you're going to a powwow and you're selling jewelry, right? You're a beater, you have earrings and different things, right? You're not going to be sending invoices for folks, but there are ways to get those sales in here, right? So one of the things that you could do is you could create an invoice here, right? And you don't have individual customers. What you would instead do is you could create different items, and so you could have. I just have some random stuff here. So I'll just put like earrings, okay? And so this is what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be creating a new product, right? So I have earrings, and I just put beaded earrings here. What I can actually do is put in the quantity, and these might be averages. So one of the things that I've talked about is how can you use accounting software when you're going to be you're selling at a farmer's market, you're selling at a powwow, you may be jewelry, but you're not selling to individual customers. And, you don't want to put in those individual sales. And if you were at the record keeping presentation on Thursday, one of the things I talked about with different record keeping presentation with different record keeping systems is sometimes we have to take a little bit from several of them, and that's what works best for us. That's one of those situations here, right? Maybe what you do is you have a little notebook, and every time you sell a pair of earrings, you notate it, right? Pair of earrings, $15, right? That's probably too low. You're an accomplished artist, right? You say a pair of earrings, $100, and you write those down every single time that you have, those sales. Then you can come in and you can transfer that information here into your accounting software. And instead of doing a different invoice for every single one of the transactions, you can just do a bulk invoice, right? And that will allow you to come in and say, okay, I sold 45 at 100, and now you can see now you have 4,500. And what you can do is then after you create this invoice, then you can receive a payment in the cash that you have, or it may be in a number of different ways, right? Maybe it's some cash, but you also had a Square reader out there with you, right? And you collected those funds, and so you can apply a payment with cash. And you can up here in the customer, you can have like a miscellaneous customer, right? You just create a miscellaneous customer, right? Let's create one. Right. So we have, so I have something here called Art Market. And that's just telling me these are the customers at the art market, right? But I could also create a miscellaneous here, and create a miscellaneous customer. And there's a number of different ways you'll find in these accounting software to create things. So I'm creating a customer right here, but I can also come here to this. If you can see where my mouse is over here on the left-hand side, I could also do this exact same thing by clicking on customers here, right? So what's cool about these systems is they give you multiple places where you can cut these different shortcuts, and I could just create a miscellaneous, right? I don't even put anything in there. And now I have that. Now I have miscellaneous. But what it's allowing me to do, it's allowing me to get all these different sales into the system, right? And I could put, when the date of the powwow that I worked, and can go on down and hit save and continue. And now I have this invoice. But right now it's showing that this invoice is open, right? So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to let me approve draft here. Okay, so now what we want to do is that we want to pay this invoice. And so we can pay this invoice in a number of different ways, right? So obviously, if we had created this invoice for a customer that had a credit card, then we can charge that credit card, all right? However, maybe what we're doing in this situation is we've created this invoice to show that we you know, it's just all the different sales that we had at one powwow, right? So I want to record a payment manually, right? And I can come in here, right? The payment's the exact same date. And like I said, I'm going to split my payment because I got some on Square. So I'm going to say 2,500. Obviously, I'm just making a lot of this stuff up. I put that this was cash, and the payment account goes to cash on hand. You can just see I have some of the stuff that's set up already. And, you know, I can put a memo to myself in case I think I'm going to forget. This was the cash paid for earrings at the Stanford powwow. Okay, and hit submit. And what you'll see here is this payment was recorded. I close this, and now 2,000 is due on this invoice. Okay, so what I should have is I should have an account somewhere that has Square. And when I do my when I pull down my statement for Square, or what happens with Square is when somebody pays you, they send you uh, a a notice that shows how much money was received by you, what their fee is, and how much money is being deposited into your bank account. What I should have here is, so first of all, so we're creating this invoice, and let's say I have that email, and they are so Square sent me an email, and the email says that you've received a payment for a total of 2,000. Right? There'd actually be a lot of these different transactions because all of those transactions would come in individually. Every time somebody would charge on their credit card, there would be that charge, and then there would be a little bit of a fee, right? That's that credit card processing fee, approximately 3% plus. I think Square charges, I think it's something like 30 cents every time. So those two amounts would get subtracted, and then the balance would be put into your bank account. Okay. So if we got, we're going to say that one person paid $2,000. So we'd want to go and say, okay, well, where is that? So one of the things is we'd want to look at a chart of accounts because I don't have Square set up here. So chart of accounts is where all of the different accounts that you have that you're going to be using, both on your profit and loss statement. That's where we talk about what your income is, what your expenses are, and what your profit is. All those profit and loss accounts, income statement and profit and loss is the same thing. And your balance sheet accounts. That's where we talk about your assets, your liabilities, and your owner's equity. Those are all going to be here on your chart of accounts, right? So you can see I have assets, I have liabilities, right? And those are all going to be, and of course, owner's equity, they don't have that on here. So, here's equity down here. And so those are our balance sheet accounts. And then we have income and we have expenses. Well, a credit card account like Square is going to be on the balance sheet, right? That's going to show well, there's going to be two different things, right? There's going to be uh, the fact that a payment's made. It could, if Square is keeping some of the money, or it may just show that the Square is submitting the money to you, and you don't even have an account for Square. So let's say that that Square has sent you a payment, and it's going to be 3%. So what we would go back to here to our invoices. I'm going to go back to sales and payment, go back to our invoices. And let's see, where's my, I'm going to say, go back to my last one. Let me see my previous invoice. Now I'm getting lost because I do not see my previous invoice, and I hope that it's saved. Okay. Oh, there it is. There it is. And you can see that it says partial is partially paid. So we can go back and record another payment. And so how we might record this payment is we would say 2,000. Now, here's the problem with something like Wave. Okay, so the way that we would typically record this is we would record that we're receiving $2,000 that is paying off this this transaction, but we're not getting the full $2,000, right? We're only getting a certain amount of money. But I can't do that here because what it's going to do is it's going to want to give me all $2,000 and then put that in my bank account. So what we might have to do instead is create a journal entry. And so you can create a journal entry. You can come over here and make a transaction. And I'm going to make a transaction, add a journal transaction. If you went over there to more, you can see that I know a little bit about accounting. So this is helping me out, right? I don't expect you guys to know exactly how to do this off the top of your head. What you'll do is as you start working with the system, you'll start to see, okay, this is how I do this. This is where it is in Wave. And then you can find solutions for those problems, right? And that's, of course, the slide was briefly up there about getting help. One of the things I think with any of these computer-based accounting systems is you're going to have to get help. But what I would do is I would create a new journal entry, okay? And so I'm just going to say credit card payment for the Stanford powwow. And so we're going to put this to accounts receivable. Oh, actually, here's my account. So we're going to put accounts receivable, right? Because that is for that money that is owed on that invoice. And when somebody creates an invoice, it goes to your accounts receivable until it is paid. That's what happens when you create an invoice. It creates a notation in the accounts receivable, right? And then the other one we're going to do is we're going to get some money into our checking account, right? And so we'll put it into our Wells Fargo checking account. But we're also going to add another line, and we're going to have some credit card fees. And so we should come down here and we should have an expense category. And you can see I have an expense category for credit card fees. Okay. And so accounts receivable, we're reducing it. So that's an asset account. So you're actually taking money away from there. So that's going to be $2,000. And here I'm going to quickly, you guys can't see this because I'm doing this on a different computer. I'm going to pull out a calculator. I should be able to do it. I think it's $60, right? 3% of 2,000. I didn't really need the calculator for that. So we're going to actually have 19,040 is going into our checking account, and then the balance, $60, is going to go into our credit card fees. All right, and you can see that's our transaction. Now, the issue that I can see right here is, okay, so we have 2,000. I think everything went well there. The issue that we're going to have, though, is we're going to have, did that apply to this invoice? So now I'm going to go back to invoices. I'm going to search from today, or to 23rd, and it's showing a partial payment. So what I need to do is I need to find a way to get that in there. And you can see from that journal entry, I wasn't able to assign a account directly for that invoice. So those are some of the quinky dinks in Wave. I'm going to quickly show you how it is in QuickBooks. So I'm going to see if QuickBooks, I thought this was open. Okay, so here's QuickBooks. This is a desktop version, okay, of QuickBooks. And doing that exact same journal entry, we come here, we make a journal entry. So I can go accounts receivable, okay, and I'm crediting it 2,000. I'm making it smaller, and then I'm going to put this into my I don't know what bank account they have here. I'll just drop this down. Banks are normally up front. We'll just put checking here, and we put 1960. This would be 1940, and then credit card fees. Hopefully they have. Do they not have a maybe a banking fee? Oh, we'll just do bank service charges. So that's the exact same transaction. I know that's a little small. That may be hard for you guys to see, but what's different here is instead of what you saw in Wave, I have this extra thing here in QuickBooks, and that is the actual customer. And if you remember in Wave, we just made the customer miscellaneous. So I would have a customer here that would say miscellaneous. I don't think there is one in this one, but we'll just call it Middlefield Drywall. What would then happen in my my QuickBooks, if I had this exact same transaction, it would apply that payment directly to that Wave payment. What we're going to have to do, in QuickBooks, would be in the QuickBooks payment. In Wave, we have to do a little workaround. So here we'd have to record a payment, and maybe what I do is I would just go, we'll go credit card, and then we'll go that it went into Wells Fargo, right? And so now that invoice is paid. But in if we went to our banking, and let me go to actually the chart of accounts here. And let me go back to banking. Is it not giving me my bank here? Not payouts. Okay, give me 1 second here. I'm trying to get into. Normally they have banking right here, and so I can't get to. See, you can see this creates a little bit of an issue when you're just trying to find all your different accounts, and they're in different places than what they normally are. So let's see if I can get to it. So I see my chart of account. I have to apologize because for some reason I cannot get to my bank account. What I'm trying to show here with this is that you would see that my bank account, and actually I'll show you how we can get to the bank account. Is we can run a report, and so now with the report, if you heard me before, I talked about that the bank account is an asset account, right? And when you looked at the chart of accounts, you could see that we had both balance sheet and profit and loss or income statement on that chart of accounts. Well, that bank account is going to sit on my balance sheet. So if I go into my balance sheet should now show, and you can see here it's showing total cash and checks. And I want to show detail. And now there it is. There it is showing my Wells Fargo checking. Okay. So sorry, roundabout way to go get to it. So I click on that. Now it's showing me all those transactions that are in my Wells Fargo. But that payment, see, I don't really have 3,940 in my account. I only have 1940 because that's accurate. So what I would have to do is I would have to do another journal entry to make it accurate. So those are those little coinky dinks in Wave. Sometimes when you're doing certain things, it takes a little bit longer. It makes it a little bit more difficult. So that's why I say if you were doing a lot of transactions like this, you can see, okay, well, if I have to make 5 different transactions to make this work every time, that doesn't, and I'm doing dozens of transactions every month, it would get very complicated. But let's go through Wave and look at something. I wanted to show you some of the different ways of like actually putting transactions in, but you can see how quickly it can get a little complicated and maybe confusing. And I definitely don't want to do that because that's what happens sometimes when you're dealing with accounting software. So we talked about sales and payments, invoices. because one of the things I wanted to talk about is different ways to get sales in there. So one of the ways that we just put sales in there is by using invoices. Okay. There's also another way that we could get sales in there. We could get sales in by using something like a spreadsheet. Like here's some different spreadsheet information I have. Maybe that's also for the Stanford powwow as well. What I could do is I could save that as a CSV file. I'll save that as a CSV file over here in documents. And I think I have that in there. And you can actually import data into your account file. And so that's what's kind of cool is sometimes if you want to actually download information from your credit card files, you don't have to necessarily link the files in there. Before I upload that, I want to go through some of these different things because I get off track and then I think I confuse everybody. So let's talk about what's in each of these different drop-down menus. Okay, so we have sales and payments. So the main things that you're going to be using here are estimates, if you use that for your business, and invoices. And then a lot of these other things are going to be like, setting up your payments. You're going to use that one time, right? Checkouts is actually a new feature that they're working on, and this is to allow you on your website to collect payments. Customer statements, generally you're not going to use that unless you're actually sending invoices to people and they're not paying you till after the end of the month. Generally what happens is people give invoices, and especially when you're giving the same customer multiple invoices over a month, then at the end of the month you would send a statement. So you could see a lot of these things that are built into these packages you're just not going to use, right? You already saw the customer feature, right? So the customer feature is just inputting your different customers. Right now, when we put in customers, it shows what the different customers currently owe us. This is some old data that I already had in there, but you can add a customer this way. You can import it using a CSV or Google Contacts. There's a number of different ways. So there are some integrations that work, and maybe you just have to kind of work around with the Wave system. But you also saw that when I wanted to input customers, I could also input it from the invoice screen as well. I don't have to come over here and add a customer by clicking this button. Okay, products and services, those are going to be everything that I sell, right? So you can see that this is not a very robust inventory system. This has both services and products. And then when I'm just going to click on one to show you what this looks like when you edit it. It has your name, has the description you can have for the different item, the price. Do you sell this, right? And the reason why they have a button here for sell this and a button here for buy this is that's to differentiate if it's a product or a service. If you click sell this but not buy this, that's generally would represent a service, right? Because you're not buying the service, you're only selling the service, right? It's basically your time and labor. But if you buy this, then this would be also an inventory item. And what this is doing then is it's then allowing that when you go and you have bills, then you can actually put that item on a bill. If you don't have that buy this, then you go to put a bill, you can create a different inventory item, but it won't be linked together with the one that you sell, right? And then you could put sales tax on this as well, right? And you can put income accounts, and you can change these depending on what type of business that you're going to have. Purchases, like we just mentioned, purchases, right? And purchases is essentially you're bringing things into the business. You're buying things, okay? So if we were to create a bill, you're going to see it's going to look, a lot like any other bill that you would have. You would choose a vendor, right? Right now, I don't have a whole lot of stuff in there, but I'll just put AT&T, your bill date, and oftentimes what you're doing is you're just copying from what the bill that you have, and then you just put that information in. If you remember, we just talked about you know, what the item would be. Okay, so right now I don't have, it looks like, anything clicked as something that I could buy. I only have things, those that are in those products and services, is things that I can sell. So let's see if I come back up here to products and services where I just was. Oh, hold on 1 second. I got to go back over here to sales and payments. And I edit this, and I put that we also buy this. And we'll put the expense account is, well, there should be a cost of goods sold expense account. Right now, I'm just gonna put this under travel expense for the time being. So this, you can see now this has a notation for sell or buy. So let's go see how that changed. Let's first look in products and services and see. Now you can see that in the purchases, that big gun is also there, right? And then when I go to bills, okay, I'm going to create a bill again, just like we were doing. Choose my vendor. And then now, before you saw there was no item, now that big gun is there. So you can see that's the limited way that Wave handles inventory. You know, I don't want to confuse everybody, but if we were to bring up QuickBooks here, there's this QuickBooks. This, you come here to lists and you do item list. Here's all your different, these are all service items. These are inventory parts. And I know this is very small, but you could see there's a lot more boxes to fill on every single inventory item. This would be with this is called an inventory part. It's the exact same thing as an inventory item. So the QuickBooks is going to be a lot more robust for the things you're doing. And I'm showing you here QuickBooks. This is the desktop version, but this stuff also works if you're using QuickBooks online. So, oh, it signed me out. I'm going to get back in real quick. Let me just give you guys a link, because you may want to, because obviously Wave is free to try. QuickBooks also has, one of the cool things that I really like about QuickBooks is they have sample files. So they have all these this data already inputted into a system of a sample company file so that you can really go and test drive it. And so I've put the link to the QuickBooks sample file. Anybody can go and get in there, do whatever you want, delete everything. When you log off, all that stuff goes away and you just click back on and it's like everything is there, right? But they have a lot of the same things here in QuickBooks. So don't know if they have this set up for, let me see here, I'm talking, so it's very hard to talk and think accounting at the same time. I'm looking to see if they have this set up as a selling items, because I'm seeing I'm looking for their item list here and I'm not seeing it. Do they have your item list? They may not have the items in here. This may be for a service-based business. There's actually a link you can click to make your QuickBooks file a service-based business or a products-based business. And when you make your QuickBooks file a service-based business, it turns off the inventory. And so it won't have that here. And I'm not finding it, because normally, like I see here in the regular QuickBooks desktop, you can see I have lists and I actually have an item list. And that item list both has service items, but they also have inventory items. And that's because I've chosen a file with, I've chosen a file with that's going to be a products-based business. And so with the products-based business, you can do both services and products. And the reason I'm doing that is I'm just trying to contrast and compare both what Wave has and the way Wave looks and how it's more simple. And I want you to understand exactly what you're getting with with Wave versus QuickBooks, right? You're not getting a more as robust system as you would with QuickBooks, but QuickBooks is very expensive, and you can do most small business, especially if you're a very small business, and especially if you're service based. We've talked a little bit about how you can get some information in here, but one of the things you'll notice is, like with earrings, you're actually manufacturing something, and so you would have to put all that information in there manually, because you don't actually, because you're actually creating that. So it's a little bit of an easier process to do in QuickBooks to actually build that inventory if you wanted to keep track of how many beaded earrings you have that you've actually made. You have to make some journal entries to get it in here to your Wave software. Anyway, so that's bills. Vendors is the exact same thing, right? We can create a new vendor up here. We can also go down here to create a vendor. A vendor is just people that you are going to be buying from. Then you have accounting. Accounting is really, that's getting into more the high level accounting when you need to go there, right? Because a lot of times you're going to be doing stuff in your invoicing, in your bill paying, but occasionally you may need to deal with the individual transactions. You may need to make a journal entry to correct things. You've seen today, we wanted to do something special, so we needed to create a journal transaction. I still need to create a journal transaction because I need to take this $2,000 out of my Wells Fargo because I don't have $2,000. So how am I going to get it out, but also show that I have that that invoice paid, right? It's those type of little tricky situations that we have to do. Reconciliation. So reconciliation, what that essentially is you're comparing what is the, let's say with a bank statement, the information that the bank has at the end of the month versus what your accounting system has at the end of the month, right? So reconciliation is very important to make sure that your accounting system is up to date. And no accounting system would be worth its weight if it didn't have a reconciliation. So we could take something like Wells Fargo checking. We're not going to see a lot here because there's not a lot of information in there. But let's say we start with a ending balance of 1940. Excuse me, that's 2940. So then I can go and open up my reconciliation, and then I can take my statement and then I can match it, and I can say, okay, that's matched. And so it's like, okay, why do we still have a difference? And we have this difference at 2000. I may have to remove this transaction or delete this transaction, right? That's the whole point, because this transaction isn't in there. Only the 1940 is, right? We did that whole credit card payment from Square, and that's what we're doing when we're doing a reconciliation. So that function is available in Wave. We've mentioned the chart of accounts already. You'll see this. This was always a big deal in QuickBooks, and you'll see this here as well. They're because this is a free system, they're always trying to sell you stuff, right? And they know that accounting is going to be a little bit higher level. So if you get in here and you get confused, they've put an easy button in here that you can go and actually hire somebody to provide either that one-time assistance, or it can be there to give you ongoing bookkeeping assistance, right? And you'll see it's down here as well, another way to click. Another thing you'll often find with accounting systems is there's lots of different ways to be able to do something. So just like we were creating vendors, we were creating customers, there's multiple ways to do this. I'm going to finish up just in one moment, and I'll turn it over to Awista to launch the survey and close us out. But I want to show you, so you have banking. One of the cool things about banking is Wave. It does allow you to connect to your bank account and allow you to transfer all that information in, so you don't have to enter it, right? You don't have to be crazy like I am, and most of the big institutions are there. And especially if your institution uses Plaid. So Plaid is a third-party financial service company, and Plaid connects. And I've seen many businesses. So I'm going to even put like I have an account at Safe Credit Union. So a lot of you guys don't know who Safe Credit Union. It's a small little credit union only based in Sacramento County. That's the only place they have locations, and there they are, right? So there's a good chance that your financial institution would be there as well, and you would be able to tie it to your Wave account. One thing I did make a recommendation. It is a lot easier and cleaner is if you have a business bank account, and if you're doing credit card transactions, if you're charging things for your business, if you have your own credit card that's dedicated only for the business, that'll just make accounting a whole lot easier, right? Because then when you're transferring all that information in, if you're just transferring in your personal bank account, now you got to find a way to get rid of all those other transactions. Maybe you have to, there's ways that you can do owner's draw and things like that, but there's going to be a lot more transactions that you're going to have to deal with that aren't pertain to the business, right? And you can't just delete those out of there, because if you delete those out of there, you'll never be able to reconcile your account properly, right? Because if you look at your statement, all those transactions are on your statement, right? And so the best thing to do is to have a bank account. And many like credit unions, they'll have business bank accounts where you don't have to hold a whole lot of money in there, and the bank account is totally free of charge to have. With banking, they also have other services that they're trying to sell you. Here's going back to payment setups as well, ways to get money. They have insurance. So Wave is partnered with Next to sell you insurance. So a lot of these buttons that you see, like, oh, there's a lot of buttons in here. A lot of those buttons are just things that Wave is trying to sell you, right? Like I said, a lot of the stuff that you're going to be doing is there in sales. You're going to be creating invoices, right, to be able to get revenue into your business. You're going to be entering bills because that's the way things are leaving your business, right? And then you may need to go into accounting every once in a while to enter a journal entry to correct things, or to reconcile your bank account. Payroll, not going to really even mention payroll because most of us at this size aren't dealing with payroll. And then, of course, I showed it to you earlier, but let's just go back real quick. Those last two things, Wave Advisors, something they're selling, and tax filing. Of course, they're going to recommend you go to H&R Block. But here's the reporting function. Profit and loss, balance sheet, cash flow. Those are your major financial statements. Those are all there. They have a sales tax report if you're collecting sales tax. There's ways that you can assign based on your invoices the actual taxes. If you're running independent contractors, you could have a 1099 report. Payroll, if you're doing payroll, they're going to produce reports, especially if you have a self-reporting state. They need to provide those reports to you so that you could report, different things, income by customer. So they have a number of different reports, and they are adding reports every so often to be able to, for you to be able to run your business. I was reading about something. I was like, I can't seem to get this, to work the way I want it to. Happens, that I don't know everything that's going on in these accounting systems, right? I'm having to look it up. So obviously Google is going to be your friend here. And one of the things it says, we don't have a certain product report specifically. What you need to do is you need to create a different income item, and you need to attach that. So you can see sometimes to get it to do certain things that you want to do, you need to have those workarounds. Whereas if we went into QuickBooks, when I look, like I said, I apologize. This is hard to show. I wish I could zoom it in like I can with a web browser. But this is the reporting box in QuickBooks. And there's tons of reports. You can see all these different reports. That's a big difference than what we're just seeing right now in Wave, right? Much more robust, right? And I'm not directing you because most of these reports, I use QuickBooks every day. Most of these reports I never ever use, right? It's almost overkill. but sometimes there is a report that just you need it. So it's really, that's one of the things that really focusing on. What type of business are that you have? What special things do you particularly need for your business? Can we start with Wave and get Wave rolling, and then as you grow, then transition to something else? So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Awista. But if you guys have any questions, I'll stick around till Awista's done, until everybody takes off, and ask your chat questions in the chat box. And of course, if you need my email, I'll put that in the chat box as well if you have questions after the webinar is over. So Awista, please take it over. I'll stop sharing to let you have it back.
Thank you, Mark. Just real quick, did you get to answer Candace's question regarding, do you guys offer any QuickBook webinar?
We haven't in a while, but Candace, if that's something you're interested in, send me an email and I'll see if I could set something up. Or what I could do is I can also, I'd even be more than happy to do a technical assistance session for you and walk you through QuickBooks and answer your questions specifically. So if that's what you're interested in, let us know. And if anybody else is interested in that, if a bunch of people email me and say, hey, we'd like you to do a QuickBooks webinar, I'll do a QuickBooks webinar. So
thank you very much for that, Mark, and I appreciate your webinar today. It was amazing as always. I just went ahead and launched the survey. If you could just please let us know how Mark did today. Every little bit of information helps him and myself better prepare for these webinars, so it's exactly what you guys need and want. So greatly appreciate that. Our next webinar is going to be tomorrow, May 24th at 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central, 12 p.m. Mountain, and 11 a.m. Pacific. The webinar is going to be Home Ownership, Understanding the Housing Market, presented by Marie Bonville, Home Ownership Training and Technical Assistance Specialist for Sunlight Armor and Homes. As always, registration is free, so please do not forget to register. You can access this recording and any of our other recordings online on our website at www.nativelearningcenter.com. We have a Cathedras webinar tab and a recorded webinar section. You can click on any one of the webinars that we have done for the past 18 months. Feel free to view them and share them with your friends and colleagues. Check out our upcoming events as well on our social media sites such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. We even have a podcast titled Hope a Thing, a Native American Podcast. You can find that on Simplecast, Google Podcast, and Spotify, and also Apple Podcast. Once again, thank you everyone for participating today, and thank you, Mark. I know Mark is going to share just a little bit more, so I'm going to actually go ahead and share the screen back to him. But thank you for everyone for showing up today's webinar.
okay, thank you very much, Awista. I'll take it over. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. There is so much that can be shown about these systems. There's what happens a lot of times is you get moving so quickly that it's very, I get tripping over my words, because I'm trying to think about, exactly what I'm doing. One of the things that I didn't get a chance to do during the time is I wanted to show some of the importing function. And so, I'm just going to just show like what that looks like so you guys could see. If you guys got
Ooh, Mark, you cut out there for a second. Still can't hear you, Mark. Mark, if you're trying to talk, it's still we can't hear you. I hear clicking.
Oh, you know what?
Oh, there you are. Now I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. For some reason, all of a sudden, it just says my connection was lost. It went blank, but not only on one computer. And I was trying to log back, turn the microphone back on. So that the whole time was just going in a circle. But I'm back. Okay. All right. So so I just wanted to show you guys, just the way that we might import something here, because one of the things I think that you might have is you might, if you're not connecting directly to your bank account, you might want to download your transactions from your account, and then upload them into your WAV file, right? And so what I did is I went into a Wells Fargo account the other day, and I downloaded transactions as a way to upload them. Okay, so let's say I want to come in here and I want to upload. Let's see here. Oh, there's those pop-ups again. Okay, and I'm going to come in here to transactions. So I'm going, so it's asking here, do I want to add income, add expense? And then we have this more drop down. So this, remember I said most of the stuff you're going to do is going to come in here in sales and payments, right, in sales and payments to your invoicing or your purchases, right? That's where you're entering your bills. But some of the times you're going to want to come in here, you're going to want to do things because you have transactions in bulk, and you'll see entering, like if we entered one income transaction, here's all the information, and you can do this fairly quickly, right? You could write a description. Let's say I sold this for cash, this was a deposit that's going in there, the amount. You can categorize the income, maybe I have that under sales here. I can write a little note. I can do this relatively quickly. The issue is when we have maybe 20, 30 of these, right? That's where it gets to be very intensive. Whereas if I'm looking at Excel, I'm going to open an Excel document, and let me see here. Let me actually open this. I think this is the one I want to open. Oh, did that not open? Okay, here's a CSV file, and I'm going to see if I can make this bigger so you guys could see. So this is a CSV file downloading transactions from a Wells Fargo credit card, okay? So you can see now I have all my transactions for 2023. That's a lot of transactions to enter now, right? Doing each one of those, that'd take me a long time. That'd be a real pain, especially when I'm setting up. Let's say I want to get data in there from the beginning of the year. So what I'm going to do is, what I was able to do from the Wells Fargo credit card is it had an export function, and it allowed me to just download this as a CSV file. And so I downloaded this as a CSV file. So I'll just hit save. Actually, I'm not going to hit save there because I don't need to save. I didn't do anything. Okay, so let me go back to Wave, and let's talk about how we upload this. So instead of adding income there, or actually in that case, it's adding an expense. An expense looks almost the exact same way, a lot of the same categories, right? But you're actually sending the money out. We're going to upload a bank statement, right? And even though this isn't, this is technically a bank statement, and it just has to be one of these 5 different formats: Microsoft Money, QuickBooks, Quicken, Simply Accounting, or a CSV file. And this is a CSV file. And really what you're doing is this is the best way to get a lot of transactions into your account if you're unable to tie something into your account. But it's actually a way. I'm going to do 2 different ways to get transactions in. And you'll know this is if you're using spreadsheets, because you can save a CSV file both if you're using Excel or you're using Google Sheets. And so that is one way to get information into Wave and not having to input those transactions individually. So I'm going to go here, and I believe that is in my Wave file. Let me see. I got to go here to, I forget where I got it. I think I have it over here, and let me go over to here, wave. Got it deep in here. Okay, so here's that file I just opened, credit card copy number 2. Click open, and where's that going? So I have something set up here. I'm gonna pretend this is to a Fidelity American Express, right? And I click that, and I upload. So then this is the way the CSV import works. It's very simple. They really only give you 3 different options, and it's the date, the dollar amount, and the description. Okay, so I'm going to confirm the date. I'm going to confirm the changes, and I'm going to select description. And then the 4th thing is to confirm. So I'm going to upload my statement. So I'm going to hit yes, continue with upload. Okay, so now we can get in there and we can see, now this is right now showing transactions from all accounts, but I can go down here and show, give me only the transactions from Fidelity American Express. So you can go in here and see, here's all those transactions. So that was pretty quick, right? Then I can come in here and I can categorize where this goes. Now, this is kind of a trick question because I'm looking here and say, okay, what income account? Okay, that's wrong because these were expenses. These were not income. But what you'll actually notice is because that spreadsheet, the way that spreadsheet was set up, let me open that spreadsheet again. That spreadsheet was set up with negative numbers. That's how it downloaded from Wells Fargo. It came as negative numbers. But basically on the import, because that import, it wanted to see positive numbers there, a little quinky dink, right? So those are just those little things that you need to know. And you're like, well, I got all these things. Do I need to retype these? Well, you could retype these if you want, but you could actually do something like this. I'm going to insert a column. I'm going to do a formula, which is just equals that item or that number. That's, oh, I hit the, there it goes, B1. I'm going to multiply that times -1, right? So when I do -1, it's going to change that from negative 965 to 965. And now I'm just going to drag this down. This will change all of them. I'm going to copy, because if you just delete this column now you don't have to delete this column when you, actually, you know what? I'm not going to delete this column. I'm going to just save this. Oh, I want to, and hopefully this is saving as a CSV. I know this is really exciting stuff, watching me save this as a CSV. So let me just make sure it's saved as a CSV. Because if it's saved as an Excel file, it won't upload. Okay, so it's saved as a CSV. So now what we're going to do, I'm going to go back into Wave. Now these are all bad. We can't have these transactions because we can't change these to negative, right? Like if I tried to change this, no, I want this to be an expense. So I'm going to put the negative. It doesn't work, and I can't go -9. You can't take it negative, right? So what I actually need to do now, earlier, Josh had mentioned about this being, being able to delete items, right? Well, if you couldn't delete items, now you're going to have to go in and make journal entries for every single one of these, right? So that's the beauty on these simple systems of being able to delete transactions. Yes, there is the opportunity. If you had somebody that was a bad actor, they can do a lot of damage. But if you protect your accounting software, if you keep it locked down, you get good security on it, good password, hopefully that'll never happen. Because what I'm going to do here is I'm going to delete every single one of those transactions. Okay, because those I can't use them in the system, right? They came in incorrectly. All right, so now I'm going to go back and do the exact same thing I did again. I'm going to upload a bank statement, and then I'm going to choose that file again. All right, good. Is opening that good location there. I'm going to put that back to Fidelity American Express, just what we did previously. I'm going to assign the date. There's the date. Now what I'm going to do is select charges, but you see there's that 9. So this allows you to actually select the column where those charges are. So I'm going to actually select this column. That's where those, the correct, the way the system wants to see them, right? And what it's going to do is it's going to just ignore that column too. I'm going to confirm that, and then I'm going to confirm the description, and I'm going to confirm the import. And you can see it's importing the green areas, so it's not going to even import column 2. Upload my statement. Continue with the upload. And now what you have is, here is all those transactions. And now, if you'll notice how this is different, this says uncategorized expense as opposed to uncategorized income. So now USPS, obviously this is postage. So now I can go down here and I can go and find, well, they don't have postage here. Well, you know what I can do here? I can actually add a new category. And I can go, this is an expense, right? And just an operating expense, otherwise known as overhead. Input postage. I don't have an account. I can put an account. I can put a description, but I think everybody knows what postage is. I can save that. And now you can see that's been assigned postage. And now I can go right down and categorize everything. And what will happen now is when I run a report, right? And now I run my profit and loss for the month. And this is going to be a report basically from the beginning of the year. That's totally fine for what we need to do. You'll actually see we got credit card service fees. That's from that transaction that we did earlier where we did the Square had that little fee and we assigned it. Now that's $60 there. Here's that postage that we just assigned. And you're going to see all those other ones are still uncategorized. So you're going to want to go in there and you're going to want to take care of all those and put those where they need to be. So that's why I was mentioning earlier about hand entering versus doing it this way. Yes, I hand enter. It is a pain, and it would be a pain for most people. But you can see you do have to do this with every transactions anyway, because it needs to know where those transactions go. Right? It doesn't do it automatically. I believe in QuickBooks Online that it will do it. You can actually set it up based on vendor. That's not available in this. Also, one of the things that is kind of, and this is a limitation here in Wave, is that what if I want to see how much money I have spent, not necessarily in postage, because it'll show me what I've done in postage, but what if I want to see what I've done with the postal service, right? So normally I would come over here and I could go and maybe I could run a vendor report. That's what I would be able to do in QuickBooks, right? And you can see I can run a report here, purchases by vendor, right? So that's going to get me closer. It's going to give me some information. But you'll notice it doesn't have any information. Here are the dates. It's showing from January through May, but it doesn't have any information on this. And the reason for that is because when we go back over here to those transactions, this is a description. Even though we can see that that's for the U.S. Postal Service, it's actually a description. It's not being assigned to a vendor. And there is no way, let me see. Oh, you can actually do that. You can add a vendor here, and I'm going to add a new vendor. I'm going to put USPS. Here you're seeing this is the way we're adding a vendor. Very simple things. They're only asking here if this is an independent contractor. And the only reason they're asking that is because you might have to issue a 1099. And now that used to be a 1099 miscellaneous. And now they've changed that to issuing a 1099 NEC. That's for contractors now. That's the 1099 form. So this is going to be regular, obviously. Now, when you click that, now you can put a lot more information down. And I'm not going to do that for right now, but there's USPS. Okay. And let me go back to transactions. And go back to postage. So edit more details. Add that vendor. And there's USPS. Okay, so that has been assigned to USPS, but you can see that's a little bit of a cumbersome system because we have to go and would have to do a different menu for each of those, right? And we could even do each of those, instead of categorizing it here, we can do edit more details for every single one and just go right down and categorize it. But then when we run our reports now, and we go to the purchases by vendor, you'll actually see now it is showing because now we've assigned it. So it's a little bit of a quirky system in some way, but a lot of the things that you might need, they are there in Wave. You just have to find a way to massage it and make it work for you, especially if you're doing service-based business, right? Not selling individual items, or if you're selling individual items, if you're not having to do a full inventory, they're very small. Like if I'm doing beaded earrings, I'm not keeping track of every beaded earrings. Maybe I'm keeping track. These are my beaded earrings that cost 100. These are my beaded earrings that cost 80. And that makes it because that's a much simpler process than keeping track of every single item. And then you can run these reports and find out information specifically about each of the different vendors or customers. You just got to be able to go in and assign that information. You would have to do the exact same thing in QuickBooks or QuickBooks Desktop or QuickBooks Online. It just makes it a little bit easier because when you're importing it, it's actually having that category automatically for the vendor. They're having that column that would be there in that import, whereas they're not doing that for the Wave. So with that, because I know I'm losing people, I could bore you guys. We could go and just continually on. I will stay on if you guys did have any questions, but if not, I'm going to turn you guys loose. But like I said, there's my email in the chat box. Please feel free to contact me if you have any questions about Wave, about QuickBooks. Would be more than happy to answer your questions. Okay, so Retha says, I emailed you some questions. Retha, I will read that and I will get back to you as soon as I can. So like Retha, if you have questions, I hope Retha, I'm pronouncing your name correctly. If not, I apologize. Please feel free to email. I'd be more than happy. That's what we're here for. We're here to provide that information to you guys. So with that, hope you guys have a wonderful day. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. And good luck to you guys all in your businesses. That's what's most important. I hope you guys have a